What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Thinking CAAP. With us today is my co-host, Heather. Heather, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Howdy, everybody. I'm Heather Holloway, and I'm thrilled to be here.
And Heather's joining us from Holloway Media Services, one of our partners, and just who I like to call friend. So, Heather, always happy to have you as our co-host. I'm Beck Moore. I'm our CEO of Community Action Association of Pennsylvania. I should probably introduce myself. And with us today, we have a special guest from Central Susquehanna Opportunities, one of our amazing community action agencies, Amy Misunas. Amy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to ask you a couple of questions, Amy. We want to really highlight the work that you're doing in community action and just have a conversation today. So thank you for being here. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
I'm
happy to be here.
Heather, take us away.
Yeah, you got it, Beck. Thanks so much. Yeah, Amy, it is a real joy and pleasure to have you here with us today. And thank you for taking the time to sort of pull back the curtain and reveal what's happening at your association. So we're going to start with a softball question. This is really, really easy, okay?
Okay.
Tell me, how you do what you do is never as important as why you do it. So can you tell us, why do you work for your Community Action Association?
I love helping people.
And before, want to make sure that we clarify though there, right? Because Amy's works for one of our agencies. Yeah, that's associated with the association. See what I did there?
Yeah.
And Amy, just to clarify, you're a caseworker at CSO, right?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So
back to you, Amy.
Okay. So I love helping people, but I love helping realize their full potential. Basically, a lot of the people, they come to us and they're like completely defeated, and that's totally okay. They're going through a lot, and they just feel like totally lost, and that light in their eyes is totally gone. And when they come to us, I can so see what they totally lost, and I want to help them get that back. So yeah, I like to help them realize their full potential and get that back.
I love that answer so much. One of our previous episodes with Aaron Lucas, who's the CEO of Bucks County Opportunity Council, we talked a little bit about this. And I think, Heather, even when we did an episode together, we talked about this too. One of the things I love about community action is something that I heard at one of their events, which is this idea, right, that and what happened with a client story that I heard about someone who said, when I met with my intake worker, when I met with my caseworker for the first time, the very first question that they asked me was, what was my dream? And no, I had not really had the chance or opportunity to dream about what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. And that's a really powerful thing, right? Because we all deserve the opportunity to dream and realize our dreams. And so appreciate so much the work that you do in helping people really achieve their dreams, their goals, bring that spark back. It's a really important thing that you do on a day-to-day basis. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Beck, just building off of that, Central Susquehanna Opportunities, right? The word opportunity is in the title.
Right.
So Amy, throughout your career, how long have you been with CSO? And, what was that trajectory to get there? Have you leaned on any previous experience to do what you do today?
Yep. I used to work for children and youth. I worked about 7 years total with children and youth services, split in between. I was there for like 6.5 years. Then I went back for a little bit to equal 7 years. And then I found out about CSO through children and youth services. And I was like, really want to work there. So I applied and had the interview, and literally it was like a phone interview first. And then I remember after the interview, I walked to my dad's house to tell him, I'm like, yo, that went really well. And then they called me and I was like, what? I was super excited. So, and I've been here almost 4 years. It'll be 4 years in July. So I'm really excited for all the clients that I've worked with and all the growth that I've seen, and it's really rewarding.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. One of the things that we talk a lot about in our advocacy work around community action is some of the myth busting kind of discussions that we have, and right, the idea that community action connects people to welfare, right? And, what's some people perceive as handouts. While yes, we do connect people with those things, we also surround them with the resources to help grow economic mobility and become self-sufficient. And I think one of the things that we hear often also is that, well, the people that we're working with, they're not working. And I think that that is typically not what we see. Certainly there are some folks who maybe don't have jobs at that particular point. But more often than not, we find that the clients that we're serving within our organizations are working 1 job, 2 job, 3 jobs, and still, right, can't get to the point where they're self-sufficient. And so when you think about, right, some of those myths, is there anything that comes to mind that sort of, right, like is a myth busting or something that people would find surprising about the work of Community Action or Central Susquehanna Opportunities?
We work with all people from all
Walks of
life. Yes.
Yep.
I have people like one of my clients. I'd like to point her out, obviously. But when she came to us, she was collecting disability. Now she's working. She's getting very little. She gets very little food stamps now. She's actually paying for her own insurance and everything. Like, she's doing great. And then we have some people that are that were not working, that are working, not getting any benefits at all. So like we work with people from all walks of life. So if that's the kind of the answer that you're looking for, I mean,
Well, no, I mean,
I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily, I think, right, like it's this, I think it's this idea to help people really understand that a lot of times when we talk about poverty, it's an idea of, or a concept that people have in their minds that's pretty specific, right? And a lot of times that idea is around, it's about a choice that somebody made. And
Oh, it's definitely not all the time. No.
Right.
I mean,
And
the
I
way the
think
economy is, people that are working 2 jobs can't afford their PP&L bill. You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely not just people that are not working. You know what I mean? It's just the way the economy is now.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's the concept, and we talked about this on a couple other episodes as well, right? This idea that a lot of times when we think about the folks that we're serving, it's one emergency away from being in a circumstance that they're potentially going to be evicted, or they have to make a choice about putting food on the table versus, right, paying their rent. And then that tends to start to snowball because of that particular circumstance. And so, again, one of the things I love about the work that you all do on a day-to-day basis is that surrounding people with the resources so that they get further and further away from that one emergency. So I appreciate you highlighting those clients and the challenges that they're working through and some of the successes that they've had. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, thinking about this, when you're in that mindset, you're working the 2 to 3 jobs, you're trying to put food on the table and balancing, do I pay for electric, or God forbid if they have oil heat, my goodness, bless them, because I have that. And that's just, my goodness.
We have oil heat here, right? I mean, space heaters. Our rule in the house is no heat till trick or treat. So even for someone who's a CEO, right? We have to make that hard decision too. So I get it.
Well, and it's these mindset shifts, but how do people find you? Like, I imagine that it's a challenge to say, we are here to help.
We get referrals from all over. We get referrals from schools. We get referrals from children and youth services, referrals from aging. In our building, we have like an aging center, senior center downstairs. We get referrals from there. Word of mouth. People just find us everywhere.
Yeah. And so and then part 2 to that challenge is, do you find that the folks that you work with, is it hard for them to ask for help?
Yes. And I want to say something about that, because a lot of people, I hear them saying, oh, it was so hard for me to do this. I'm so embarrassed. And I always want to say, sometimes it is hard to ask for help, but I find that it's such a strength to ask for help. It's definitely it's not a weakness, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about at all.
Yeah, that's definitely something I've had to learn and still have challenge with for sure. Yeah, that resonates with me hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is difficult to ask for help, but I appreciate how you reframe and
Hmm.
tell them that it's a superpower.
It
And
is
I
a
think that's
superpower.
it is a superpower, and that's what makes you so special.
Hmm.
So, can you tell me, what does the day to day look like? Like, what are you
Ooh.
doing from 9 to 5, or does it even end at 5? I mean, you might you
Well, it's
might
supposed
have
to,
an 8 hour
yes.
week.
But it does end. Ends at 4 technically, but anyways. But every day is different, and that's what I really love about it. Technically, some days different. Like I might be enrolling a new client into case management with me and things like that. A lot of my clients, I have very good working relationships with my people. They're always calling me, let me know what's going on in their lives, and I like that. Sometimes I might be scheduling an appointment for them to, draft a resume or whatever, do a mock interview with them, stuff like that. Sometimes I transport them to job interviews, which I love doing that. Um, Sometimes I'll take them to like different resources. Like we have an amazing resource in Milton. It's called Dig Furniture Bank, which is so cool. I'm taking one of my clients there on Tuesday, in fact, next week. So that's fun. Um, every day is different. So you never really know what you're in for unless you have it scheduled. So yeah, it's fun.
So if you think back over the last 4 years, and I
Hmm.
also want to just say thank you to the work that you did at Children and Youth, because I can
Oh,
appreciate
thanks.
through some circumstances that I've lived through just how hard that job is too. And there's it all of the roles that you've had, those are hard jobs. So just again, I'm gonna annoy people who've heard me say thank you so many times in this episode, but I just can't thank you enough. You're doing the hard work for sure. But when you think about the last 4 years, is there is and the clients that you've helped and all of the people that you've touched their lives in a really amazing way, is there something in particular that you think of that you're just like, this is something that I'm just so proud of, or that one client that you remember on a regular basis that keeps you going? Because I appreciate that in all of the roles that you've had. It's a lot to take on emotionally, right? And so I'm sure that there's something in there that's just like, this is the thing that keeps me going on a day-to-day basis, or that one client that just really, right, you think about that person often.
Hmm. There's a lot of them, honestly, a lot of them. Um, but I think the one that I brought up already, I've been working with her for quite some time, but like her strength, when she first came to me, she was very timid, and very afraid. And her growth has been phenomenal. Like I said, she was just collecting disability, and she was very afraid. But with working together, she has gained employment. She's still collecting disability, but now she's like just getting very little amount of food stamps. She lost her medical and she was so afraid with that. But I'm like, you'll be okay. And now she's paying for her own medical, and so this is great. She's like breaking away from the government assistance and working towards sustainability. And there's so many other clients that I've seen, not just her in particular, but where they come to us not working at all, just getting out of jail, and then they get a job, they get housing, they get full-time employment, and then they show me their first pay stub and there's overtime on that, and I'm just so happy. This one guy in particular, I was so happy. He sent me a picture of that pay stub, and his hand was filthy because of his job is such a hardworking job, and I was just so proud of him. And then he emails me telling me he's going to look in an apartment this weekend. Like I'm just so happy
Yeah.
just to see that
Wow.
motivation.
Well, and you get to be that person, right? That client is sharing their
Mhm.
success. And so that to me, right, tells me everything I need to know about how
Mhm.
you're connecting with your clients,
Mhm.
because you're the person that they want to tell.
Yeah.
They're excited to
Mhm.
tell, right? And
Mhm.
I know that for me, there have been points in my life where there hasn't been that person, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh.
And so
Yeah.
you get to be that person. That's pretty amazing. And that again,
Yeah.
that's really telling about the connection that you've made with that individual.
Yes, yeah. There's other clients too. I have so many stories. I could tell you like 50 of them. But just like I celebrate even some people would be, that's just like a tiny success. To me, everything they do is a success. Like even if they just get a renewed ID, to me that's phenomenal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
that's a step to accomplishing something else, because if you
yes.
don't have an ID, you can't get a job, you can't get housing, you can't, right? You potentially can't drive a car, you can't get a paycheck cashed, right? Like there's a million things that until you're living in that circumstance, you can't appreciate how something so simple is as such a barrier to the next thing.
Yes. I had
Why don't we think?
a client call me and tell me she got her new ID by herself, and I'm like, that was $42. Like to me, $42 is a lot, and I'm like, the fact that she got that herself, I was so happy. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I was so proud of her for doing that. That's a huge success.
Yeah, you know, when things are going well, we take so many things for granted, just like renewing an ID or having that license. What you're providing, I'm hearing, is independence and purpose, two phenomenal things that are empowering and can inspire us to continue going on those rough days. But Amy, I have to ask you, what do you do to fill your cup up so that you can continue to serve your community?
And I will openly say that there are times right now that I've had this conversation with Heather that like I don't have a cup anymore, right? Like I threw it, it's gone. I don't know what I did with it. So also appreciate that there's for me that's a trigger question right now in particular. But
so you're asking self-care, basically. What do I do?
Yeah, what do you do so you can continue to show up for your clients?
So paint. I was painting the paintings that you see in the background. I did myself. I spend time with my son a lot, and this sounds silly, but I watch YouTube a lot, I watch like hauntings, ghost stories, things like that. So that's what I do. That's it though, but that's significant because it helps,
Yeah.
Yes.
Art therapy is a pretty amazing thing. So yeah, agreed totally. Well, for those of you who are listening, want to make sure to remind you, right, that you can check out Central Susquehanna Opportunities by visiting CAAP.org and going to the About Us section to search for CSO and or your local agency. We want to encourage you to check out CSO in particular. Your local community action agency is always looking for volunteers and support. That could be your time, that could be your resources, but please make sure that you check CSO out and the amazing work that they're doing. Just can't say enough good about all of our agencies, but here specifically to celebrate Amy and the work she's doing at CSO. So Amy, thank you for joining us. Is there anything that you want to share before we officially wrap our episode today?
I just love what we do here, and I'm so proud of everybody that comes here looking for help, and I'm just happy for everybody.
Oh, I love that. Thank you again for joining us. Yeah, we appreciate you. Happy to celebrate Community Action Month with you. Thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Amy.
Yep.
Thank you to everybody. Heather, thank you for co-hosting, and we'll catch you on the next Thinking CAAP episode.
We'll see you next time. Bye. All right, thank you so much for staying with us for this special episode of the Thinking CAAP. Let's not waste any more time and move on to the second interview in this compilation episode with Raelyn Jackson.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Thinking CAAP. I'm Beck Moore, CEO at Community Action Association of Pennsylvania, and we have some great guests and an amazing co-host. Heather, thank you for joining me yet again. Happy to have you.
Oh my gosh, it is an extreme pleasure and honor and thrill, and I'm delighted to be here, Beck. Thank you so much.
Of course, remind our listeners who you represent, what your organization is, because I want to make sure that we get a special shout out for you.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much. I own Holloway Media Services, and we are your organic social media marketing partner. Thank you so much.
Of course, absolutely. Thank you for partnering with us. And also with us today is Raelyn Jackson, one of our team members at one of our agencies, one of our local agencies at Step Inc. So Raelyn, say hello to our amazing listeners.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me today.
Of course, we're happy to have you here. We're going to be talking a little bit about some of the things that you do. We want to make sure that this is a kind of an opportunity for us to share with folks during Community Action Month, the amazing work that you do at your agency, as well as a lot of your colleagues across the state. So thank you for being here. Thank you to Rochelle Abbott, who is your CEO, for making sure that you could be a part of this episode. And shout out to her episode, which I think was launched in April, if I'm not mistaken. So if you haven't checked out her episode, check it out.
Yeah.
And with that, Heather, take us away.
Yeah, awesome. So Raelyn, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations as we're moving through all these podcasts and highlighting some superheroes within all of the, action agencies in Pennsylvania. First things first, we have alphabet soup here, right? Back with all of the.
Amen.
So what does STEP Inc. stand for?
Success through engagement and partnership.
Okay, success through engagement and partnership. And where are you located in this beautiful state of Pennsylvania?
We're serving Lycoming and Clinton counties.
Okay,
so
amazing.
STEP is one of those organizations that has a couple different counties, like some of our others. So they have a larger service area than just one county, but they do some tremendous work, lots and lots of programs there.
Well, great. You're teeing me up, Beck. I mean, let's talk about some of those programs. So what are we offering there at STEP?
Well, our STEP organization has a lot of programs as a whole. I am just a director of one of those programs. So my team works overseas.
Hold on, Raelyn. Not just. Don't say just. You're a director. You do amazing work. I just want to make sure to know your worth, friend. You do amazing things. I hear about the great things you're doing all the time. So you're a director, not just a director. I don't want to interrupt your flow, but I want to make sure to say that. Because I think you're amazing.
It's an incredible team, though. It takes my team. It's not me. It's my team. So I oversee an amazing team, which is very important. So I have about 9 programs under me, and we're expanding from there. So we have a lot of various housing programs. We have a lot of people that are experiencing homelessness, working with the 211 system. We also have some youth programs. Our YES program helps oversee ages 16 to 21, helping youth kind of overcome any barriers that they have. We have general case management that also helps people overcome any barriers to self-sufficiency. So that's one of the basic foundations of my programming is our case management services that we offer. And then we also have programming for our Work Ready team that helps people that have been an extended TANF for 5 or more years. So those are individuals that haven't been able to get back to work because they've been on cash assistance for 5 or more years. And we're helping them get over those hurdles of the barriers that they're facing for self-sufficiency and then get back into the workforce. We have a lot going on. We have a lot of different grants flowing through my department alone. But then as an agency, we have, your weatherization programs, your housing programs, we have transportation, Head Start, the Office of Aging. Our team's huge. It's amazing. We have all the amazing, incredible things.
That's amazing. It sounds huge. My goodness gracious. And when do you sleep?
Every now and then.
And I know, so I've gotten the opportunity to get to know you since I've been here at CAAP. I think we met the first time at the conference my first year, if I'm not mistaken.
It's my first year, yeah.
Yeah. But so how long have you been at STEP?
I've been with STEP for 2.5 years, so I'm going on my 3rd year right now in August.
Yeah, so you started just a little bit after I started here at the association.
Yep.
And so I know I'm just going to give Raelyn a special shout out because I know in having met her for the first time back at that conference, and I can remember exactly where we were standing in the main session and the folks that you were standing with. And so I just know that I've really seen you grow in a lot of different ways. I know Rochelle has really mentioned, your executive director, CEO has mentioned just the growth that she's seen from you. And I know you've really leaned into a lot of the CAAP efforts. And so I just want to say, I appreciate your leadership on STEP. I think you do amazing things. And I know that folks just can't say enough good about you. And I've seen growth in you. So I just want to make sure to give you a shout out there.
Thanks, Beck. That's really meaningful. And I mean, Rochelle is amazing, as we both know. So just to hear that she's speaking highly of me means a lot to me. And then thank you. Yeah. Trying.
No, you're doing more than trying, friend.
I'm glad to work with an incredible organization, though, that holds me in that, holds me accountable, but then keeps me growing and being better and being the best person that I can be too. So it's amazing. It feels good to be home. That's what I consider it. So.
I love that. So put that on a t-shirt somewhere.
Yeah, I love it.
That's awesome. So can you kind of pull back the curtain for us then and take us through your day to day? I imagine from the moment that 9 a.m. or when I don't know, 4 a.m. whenever you get in the office, I imagine from the time you get in the office to the time you leave, your
No,
hands.
that's one thing I love about Steph, though. They honor people's time. And I actually get in trouble if I stay too late or if I'm working outside the hours. So I can't even be upset about that, because I used to be that person that would work 24/7 and never stop. And as we all know, where that leads is a very dangerous position. So I am very grateful to work for an organization that says no. At the end of the day, you need to end your day. It's okay if you need to send a quick email late at night or something, but ultimately back off and don't do that, because you need to be mindful of your time, your energy, and put your energy where it needs to be. So I love that about here. Yeah. So
I love that too. And I'm just going to say this out loud. I know we've talked about this on some of our workplace culture discussions. I know I present on this a lot, right? Like, we can't be the best version of ourselves for our clients and the people that we serve if we don't give ourselves that space. We've talked a little bit on some of the other episodes with some of your counterparts, Raelyn, about the fact that many of the folks that work in community action have been clients of community action. And so there's that re-traumatization that happens when you're taking people through the intake process. And so I think that, like, what you just said so acknowledges the need for that, kind of wellness check. And as leaders, it's our responsibility, whether we're the CEO, director, whatever we are, right? There's a opportunity for us to ensure and make sure, frankly, that that's happening.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I love that. I love that highlight.
I love that I'm learning that and that it's officially hitting me, like, to understand that, like, your weekends are supposed to be your weekends. Your evenings are supposed to be your time to kind of take things in. And I mean, I'm very much one that will, like, read through my day, right? Like, I'm going back and going through my entire day, like, what could I have done better? What could I have done differently? But I still, like, even having, like, a supportive husband and stuff like that too at home, to just be like, okay, it's okay. It's going to be okay tomorrow. Let's decompress and just move on from there. So having support all around is very important in this field, to just kind of keep yourself in check and kind of see how those days are going. But I'll get off of that soapbox and onto the main road here. So as far as what my day looks like daily, it's really hard to say, Heather. Like, every day is very different, and it can all be based off of kind of what's happening. So, like, my position has just kind of taken a shift this year, especially too, where I'm not doing as much frontline stuff. I'm not working maybe directly with the frontline staff as much as I was last year. We're building a leadership team below me, which is amazing, to kind of, like, highlight those individuals and make them in charge of their programs, and, like, see how they push that forward and build all of these bigger and better programs than what I could have done. And have them highlight team members and build their leadership skills too. So that's been fun for me to kind of go through that transition, as we're just starting that really in January, February. So, like, helping them become better leaders too, but recognizing what that is going to look like for programming and stuff. But then reports, grants, helping, assisting wherever I can, trying to still keep myself on the focus on the front line too, just so I don't lose touch with that, because that was been one of my biggest fears with making that adjustment, which I think is pretty normal for us leaders as we get further away, especially if you've started off as a case manager from before. You're like, oh, I need to stay in check with reality a little bit too, to make sure I don't lose touch, because how can I be a good leader if I don't understand what the frontline team is doing too? So, like, taking the time to go in with them into some of their case management meetings, just as a quick, like, hey, I'm here to help. What can I do? Tell me about the story about the kiddo. What's going on? Or just joining some of their team meetings to see, like, what's up. Like, what can we talk about? What are you seeing? What can we do? What can we do here? What we can, just conversations. But it also then helps us on the flip side for grants. Because how can I write an effective grant if I don't truly know what the needs are, or what we're seeing in the community too? So, like I said, I can't really tell you day to day, but I can tell you, like, an over compass of, like, what we're working towards and what I'm trying to do every day, and trying to make our programming better while looking for new programming, while also building the team that we have. So.
Woo, leader for the win, Beck.
I know, right? I'm gonna call out a couple of things that I think are really important to the things that Raelyn just mentioned. So, number one, modeling, right? The things that you're modeling for your team, super important, right? If we're willing to jump in as leaders, the team's more willing to help each other, right? 1,000% over. Accountability partnership, right? And saying, like, if we're modeling, right? Like, okay, if I'm on a sick day, and I'm terrible about this as of late over the course of the last year, if my team's listening, I acknowledge this. I'm trying. Like, when you're off, when you're sick, right? Like again, right? Like our decision making is not the best. We might be more right short tempered. We may not be more even keeled. We might not be as thoughtful, and so that's really important. Like when we're off, we're off. We're off. Because our team should also have that. It's a respect thing. Like if you're taking a sick day, like not that long ago, my family had neurovirus. Like there was lots of things happening in this house, not great things. I should not have been picking up the phone at any given point. I should be focusing on, dealing with my own bodily fluids.
Recovery.
Right. So I think that's really, really important. And what you said before, I want to just call this out too. You said something about, right, like one of your fears about getting further and further away from frontline staff. So because it's a fear, I just want to say this out loud. You're going to be intentional about this. My guess is if I was reading the tea leaves, you're probably always going to be intentional about it because it's a fear. Because when we fear those things, we tend to compensate, right? And so we talk about this a lot with leadership, that the further you get away from frontline, right, you don't understand the impact and the decisions you're making. And so super, super important. So give yourself some credit. And I also want to just call out that I appreciate that there's a perspective that people are thoughtful about that, but it's really easy to get tied up in the day-to-day and have to worry about this and this and this. And so when we have that intentional leadership and we're thoughtful about it, not everybody has that capacity. So give yourself the accolades that you deserve for being thoughtful about it.
Well, thanks, Beck. I appreciate that. Calling me out.
Just saying.
The best possible way.
And I agree with your statement. Like, I'm trying. So, like, that's, the biggest piece. And I think that that's all I can expect from my team, too, is to try. So, like, we're all trying to make this better and to make others' lives better, too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we've seen on a lot of these podcasts and stories that I'm learning too from meeting all you guys out there and gals. There's a lot of folks that, like Beck said, come from being a client of the resources you provide. So I'm wondering what your come from is. Like, why are you doing this work? Why STEP? Why are you doing this? And then I guess part 2 would be, how'd you get there?
Sure. So I did not come from that type of background, but I have had a lot of experience. Like I've always been a helper. I've always been one of the people to just kind of hit the ground and help however I can. And if I see somebody in need, I take it as my need and try to help them overcome. Obviously, that takes them to have some skin in the game, but you know what I mean. So, coming alongside of people and helping has not been something I've shied away from since the very get-go. Going back to middle school, high school, elementary. It's always been the way that I have. So,
I just envision Raelyn being the friend. You know what I mean? She's got you. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like that's going to be my slogan today. I try. But yeah, so no, I'm always just trying to be that person that can try to help in some way, in some capacity, to make somebody's day better or make a positive impact on somebody's life. Not just me, but like as a whole, like what can we do to make a positive impact on somebody's life, or what kind of programmings are needed to make that positive impact. But I actually came from the world of foster care, adoption, and adolescence, residential care. So I worked there for about 7 years as the director of operations. And while there, I grew a heart for this work. I worked in residential as a case manager for about 1.5 years. And when I did that, I realized that the world is cruel and can be awful to people, and how things how environments create people, and how, unfortunately terrible situations can cause people to be pretty have struggles in their life and struggle for the rest of their life, especially when it happens to our youth and the younger folks. So working alongside of them, they inspired me. They had some terrible uprisings and had some terrible situations. I remember one client specifically who told me that her dad was injecting heroin in her since age 2. And that's just terrible. And it's awful. And and then prostituting her out, like it got worse, like it just didn't get better. And working alongside of her and seeing her still have ambition and wanting to make change and wanting to do better for her family and herself as she gets older. I mean, obviously she was focusing on herself, and coming alongside of her and helping give her the tools and resources to do that, even though I didn't have personal experience from it. And her still trusting me enough to to come to me and want me to help her, like, showed me that you don't necessarily need to have a background in this, but you need to have compassion and empathy to come alongside of them to understand, like, I may not be able to directly reflect with you, but I sure as heck can try to help you overcome this, however that may be. And I mean, she's now a nurse and she has a baby and she's married and like all the things. And that's just really incredible. And that's just one story out of the hundreds we've worked with. But like, she was one that like I will always think of, like, this is why I do what I do. Like, there's change to be made when people want to make change. And I would love to be able to help them do that. So
well, thank you for your work in all of that. I mean, and I think what you just said, right, speaks so much to the thing that we've talked about time and time again on many of these podcasts, which is that people have this perception that the situations that they're in are based off of the choices that they've made on their own. And sure, while that may be true, more often than not, the situational component largely overpowers the individual choice. Because if I start from this starting block, there's only so many choices, right? And it's really hard to overcome some of those barriers by things that you never chose on your own. And I think that story is really a powerful one for people to understand, right? So thank you for doing that work.
Yeah, no, I mean, thank you for her for doing that work. I mean, coming alongside of her and just offering those resources. I mean, she overcame a lot, and just to think, you know, she got away from heroin and never used again. I mean, those aren't the same success stories for everybody, but to know that that is able to happen is really important for any of our clients to understand too. Like, you can do this. It's just a matter of when you're ready to make those moves and when we can come alongside of you. And I always say to my team, like, it's about planting seeds. Like, we might see the same clients hundreds of times, thousands of times. And I mean, we do see a lot of the same ones, but planting that seed each time to show them that, you know, like, we're here, and to create that trust and that bond. So then when they're ready to make that and their seeds start getting watered, then we all sprout. And, you know, like, we all know that, like, slogan. And it's so true though. Like, you see it happen after time. Like, eventually it clicks and they want to make that change. And you're like, okay, let's do this. Like, if you don't change the way you acted from the first time to the last time, they're going to have that trust with you automatically. And they're going to want to make those moves too, because they're like, oh, Raelyn knows me from the very beginning, but she's never changed the way she's thought about me, despite all of these things that have happened in between. So, like, just showing you care and you really do want to be there, but also understanding people have to make that choice and that change.
Well, and sometimes timing is everything, right? I mean, there are sometimes that, like, there is just too many things happening at once, and your ability to be able to see through that, you can only take in so much sometimes. Right. So not to give excuses, right. Or for people to think like, oh, right. Like that, you know, that's just an excuse. Sometimes I'll have this conversation with people around something similar and they're like, oh, well, right. But if people really want to change, sure. But there's also, right, like, sometimes, you know, and depending on what somebody's ability level is, depending on what emotional capacity they have, mental health issues, right, et cetera, the overwhelming anxiety of just making a choice when so many things are, you know, the swirly twirly world of whatever is happening, it's just too much sometimes. And I say that as somebody who, you know, is very well resourced at this point in their life, but at other times haven't been.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I, you know, I'll also just say that, relevant to the client stories, early on in my career, one of my very first professional jobs was working in intellectual disability space. And the stories of many of the clients that I worked with were really hard. And I was only there for maybe a year and a half, 2 years. And eventually I had to move on because it was just too much. I couldn't handle the client stories. I wanted to help people, but it was too much. I couldn't, my heart broke too often. I couldn't do it anymore. So again, I know that the clients are doing the work, but you know, there's a certain power in what you're doing, and just appreciate you very much.
Thanks.
being that calm, steady, consistency, right?
Yeah.
Consistency. I heard that brought up a few times where, you know, they didn't have the consistent support or the person that they can call. You know, so thanks for
I want to ask one other question, actually, that I think is, well, I have two questions. One question I've never asked. Well, both questions I don't think I've asked anybody yet. So thank you for being my guinea pig, Raelyn.
Okay.
Number one,
you're first.
Number one, easy question here. And I mean this, there's nothing to do with age, to be clear, unless our listeners think that I'm being ageist right now. What did you want to be when you grew up? I still don't know. I'm 43 and I still don't know, but I'm just curious.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, no, fair. I don't know that.
I always kind of let life guide me, and that's
Yeah.
and that's why I say, like, I don't have a background, but I'm here because of
Yeah.
all the things that led me here, and I've always just kind of found my path that way. So I have no idea what my end game is. No
Yeah,
idea.
me either.
I just enjoy the ride, and I love every second of it. So
Yeah. I mean, Heather and I might take over the world. I think that's what.
there you go. You should.
Well, I mean,
You
I'd bring
absolutely
Raelyn along too, because she gonna get it done with us.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then my other question for you is, you kind of were talking about this a little bit when you were describing, your team, et cetera. And I'm sorry if you can hear my dog barking. It's the end of the day and he wants to go outside. So I'm sorry. But when you talk about, right, empathy and, right, clients that you're seeing on a regular basis, one of the things that we talk a lot about when we're doing management and coaching, or when we think about kind of the training that is asked of CAAP as a training and technical assistance entity, it's around that idea of empathy. How do you keep your team, right, motivated and still thoughtful about the client experience? Because I know that that's hard, right, when you're dealing with the same situation day in and day out.
It is hard. And I'll say every day we're kind of learning different techniques or different ways to conversation. And I think that's part where my leadership team comes in too. So, because I naturally I try to be positive and I try to stay on that positive side too. Sometimes that can be seen, as a hardship for somebody that's been in the field for many, many years. So they're looking at me like, Raelyn, you're still like green. And I'm like, but I'm not, but like, I see what you're saying. So like, having that mutual respect to come together and be like, okay, what's the reality of the situation? But one thing that I will say that I implemented pretty quickly when I started here was we had to do success stories. And everybody was like, fretting what a success story means. And I'm like, listen, I don't need this huge, like, this is the amazing things this person has overcome and challenges every single month and all of these things. All I need is one snippet about a change that one of your clients made that month that is a positive change in their life. It can be minimal. It could be they received the government phone because they had no cell phone before and now they have communication to the world. That's it. It could be something as simple as that. And that's amazing because that's a huge hurdle that now they're no longer facing. They're no longer facing those communications. So what I always say is, like, look at the small stuff. When we lose touch with those small things and are only looking for those big stories is when we lead closer to burnout, because we're so wrapped up in that idea of, oh, it's not happening. These things aren't working. What I'm doing is not happening. But the reality is, it is. Every little step that those people take is one step closer to their self-sufficiency, and it's their definition of self-sufficiency. It's not mine. It's not yours. It's theirs. So like any goal that we can overcome, any hurdle that we can help anybody achieve, we need to hang on to, because those are the things that are going to help us get through those hard days. Those are going to be the things that it's going to be hard when we see the same person come back. But okay, what did we do for them last time that was successful for them? Or what could we do this time that we can see as a success? Because if we recognize those little patterns, then we can have a greater understanding and a greater appreciation for that person, because we're all making steps and hurdles every single day. And if we don't recognize them, it's like that whole, like, write down one a great thing that has happened to you today. Staying mindful in some of our approaches and staying mindful in how we treat our clients is the same. It's the same philosophy.
Yeah, we do something at the dinner table every night. Say your favorite thing about your day.
Yeah.
And some days that's hard.
Yeah, it is.
But I think what we're trying to instill in our children, right, is that idea of, like, power of positive thinking and really trying to be thankful for, like, a sense of gratitude. There was a speaker once that I was at a conference, and it was like the 10 top things, like the science of happiness. And this person had literally studied happiness at Harvard. I think it was Harvard. Maybe it was Yale. I'm sorry for Harvard or Yale, whichever one I've offended here. But anyway, there was this whole study of the study of happiness. And one of the things that the presenter talked about is those people who have a spirit of gratitude are far happier. And it's something I definitely feel very passionate about, in making sure to say thank you to people. But I think to the point about empathy, I also just want to say is that I want to remind people that I know that the work is hard and it's tiresome, but when we start to lose our empathy, it's a form of bias, right? And it's a form of putting people in boxes. And we have to remember, every situation is different, and we need to do a mental health check, think about our burnout levels, right? All of those things in order to find our way through, because it's what I used to say as a camp counselor pretty often, right? If I have a group of 30 kids and every single kid within 20 minutes asks me, what are we doing next? 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 I can't be upset at kid number 30. They don't know that 29 other kids, or maybe they do, but it's not their fault that the 29 kids ahead of them asked that question. And so I have to treat kid number 1 and kid number 30 the same way, no matter what. And I think that's really true with respect to clients too, right? I mean, it's a really simple rule. Yep. But if we forget it, we're not doing our clients the best service that we can.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's extremely important to feel yourself with that burnout and that biases too. And I love that, with the trainings and stuff that CAAP has offered before, like recognizing your biases and like paying attention to those kind of things, because it is truly important. And once we start noticing that kind of action, then you can make change. But when you're so stuck in the burnout phase, or the feeling overwhelmed and not recognizing that it's truly your overwhelmness and taking a step back, and I mean, like, a step back can be like looking at your phone for 5 minutes and taking a breather, right? Like, that's okay. Like,
watch a funny puppy video.
Yeah, exactly.
Go outside and breathe.
Right, go outside.
Go
right,
outside.
Yeah,
drink some water,
walk, whatever we need to do. Like, whatever you need to do to regroup and refocus and know that you're going to be okay, even if it is taking a full day off. Take a mental health day. Please take a mental health day if that's what it's going to take, because that's the only way that we can effectively help our customers and ensure that, we're keeping ourselves grounded too. Because the more you come in with feelings and things and all of the things, happening at home even too, like, you're going to have a harder time working here, and it's going to be harder to separate yourself from those things. So, like, they do say, like, leave the stuff at home. And I understand that that's only easy said, not done. But, like, taking the time to just regroup, like refocus and kind of like shut that off however you need to, take the day, whatever, like, it's super important, because when you can disconnect and then come back, like, you're going to be 100% better for that person, and you're going to be working as your best self. So,
well, I know that we're coming up against time, and I know we have said we want to make sure to keep these episodes short. So I want to make sure to be thought. No, I'm loving this conversation. don't apologize. It's great. Yeah. I think everything we're talking about is super important. But I think, right, like, that capacity piece is sort of, right, like, recognition of the sick time, et cetera. But part of what I think also tends to happen with burnout within this community of community action agencies is that we're all human. We all have lots of layers of what's happening in our personal lives, to your point, right? Like, I have a son with special needs. And so that means there are some days that coming to work in the morning, I need a minute if the morning's been hard. And my team knows that. If I have a particular hard, session with therapy or whatever, right? Like, I'm going to need a minute before I'm ready to be able to take action on something. And some days I'm not going to be able to do it at all. And so I try to be really upfront and honest about what's happening there. But what tends to happen is, right, like, work, we care so much, you all care so much. And so it becomes this form of compartmentalization. So we don't deal with the thing that's happening. And then we come to work and we dig ourselves into work. And I've seen, like, lots of burnout, particularly in executive leadership, happening, that we've dug so much in, we haven't dealt with this thing. And I will say that this was a problem for me at one point in my life. I was definitely a workaholic. I wasn't dealing with those things. And then, right, I was coming home and I was already, right, this much ramped up, and that no amount of space in between, like, it's going to lead to bigger problems later. So make sure you give yourself the time and space, right? Recognize when you need the time in order to be able to do that. It's so important. Trauma allows us to put things in boxes and deal with them later. You still got to take it out and deal with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Heather, I think we probably have maybe one more question. That's an easy one to end us out here with Raelyn.
Yeah, sure. So speaking about celebration, whether it's getting a phone or staying hydrated or taking 5 minutes to get fresh air, what can we celebrate about STEP and maybe some future programming?
So STEP is on to some amazing things in many different of our programs. And I know, like, soon we're going to be partnering with CAAP and doing our disaster case management that's coming down the line to help with Hurricane Debbie victims that were here in Lycoming County. So we're excited to see how that comes about, but that's specifically through my team. Whoop, whoop. So we'll be pushing that through. And, with my new leadership and team, like, we're going to be rolling, and I can't wait to see what comes about this year. So we're on to some great things.
Awesome. I'm excited excited about that partnership as well. We're excited to get that kicked off and moving along. So want to make sure to let our listeners know if you're interested in partnering with STEP, learning more about them, you can go to thecaap.org, check out our website, go to the members, the About Us section, find STEP in the drop down so that you can connect with them if you want to, volunteer. If you're able, resources, time, dollars, right? Certainly always appreciated, and connect with Raelyn and her team there. So would encourage you to please do that. And if you're not in Lycoming or Clinton counties, make sure you check out your local agency to learn more about what the amazing work that they're doing. So Raelyn, thank you for taking time. I know we spent a little bit more time than what we meant to, but I think it was a really great conversation. And I know, Heather, you know that I love a good workplace culture conversation. So
it's juicy. Thank you, Raelyn. This was awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate you both so much. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks everybody for listening, and stay tuned for the next episode of the Thinking CAAP.
Thank you for being a part of this episode of the Thinking CAAP. Check the show notes for resources and links to other episodes. And don't forget to subscribe and follow to be notified when new episodes are released. If you have any community action questions you'd like Beck or one of our local experts to answer in a future episode, please email your questions about community action to info@thecaap.org. Subject line, Thinking CAAP.